What was the weirdest date you've ever been on? I went on a date with a girl to a bar and grill. The girl just got set free from a bad relationship. The bartender was her uncle. The server was her sister. And her fresh ex-boyfriend was there on a date with another guy. Another one, I went on a date with this girl from Tinder. She super liked me and messaged first. So I was really happy to have someone interested. I asked if she'd like to go for a walk sometime, and she said she'd love to. So we get to walking, and like 5 minutes in, she asks if I have roommates. I said yes. I live with 5 people, and tell her about a few of them. There's Maximum, Matt, Mark, wait, Mark Smith. I know him. What's he been up to? So we start chatting about my roommate, and she knows a lot about him. His family, the sports he plays, his girlfriend. Every time I try to move the conversation somewhere else, she brings it back to Mark. She's not even pretending to be into me anymore. She's just fangirling out over my roommate. I just love him. His hair is always so shiny, and he smells so nice. She spends the full 2 hours talking about him, and asking all sorts of questions. I didn't really know what to do, so I just boredly keep answering. When we get back to our cars, she shifts gears again. Hey, so I had a really great time. Want to go back to your place to have some fun? She's really creeping me out at this point. So I tell her I have homework to do and maybe later. I get back and tell Mark about the date, and he knows exactly who she is. He picks up his phone and immediately calls the police. They show up at the house, find the girl outside in the backyard and arrest her for violating a restraining order or something. It turned out she was super unstable and had stalked my roommate since they went on one date almost a year prior. She recognized from photos she had of him and used me to find out where he lived. Dated a woman who didn't tell me she needed meds because she was psychotic. In the middle of dinner at a restaurant, she got quiet and distracted. I asked if she was feeling okay. Apparently one of the voices told her I was a horrible person and she pulled a steak knife on me. A customer was able to talk to her and got her to put the knife down. The police were called and she was arrested. I didn't press charges. And about a week later, she sent me a letter with proof that she's been in counseling for a long time, takes medication, and included a heartfelt apology. The girl took me to a cemetery at night, walked me to a grave, explained that it was her cousin, and that night was the anniversary of his death. Then told me a long story about the time he raped her. Third date with a guy from Hinge. Started off completely normal, went to a pub for a few drinks. Pub closes. Guy invites me back to his. We get back to his and have a few more drinks. He then asks if I'd like to smoke a joint. Hadn't smoked for a few years, but thought hey it'll be fine. End up feeling very sick and unable to move. Guy doesn't have a bucket or bowl, so brings over the entire kitchen bin and places it next to me. He then suggests we watch a movie. Guy puts on American Psycho, and I sit there for the next 2 hours paralyzed and paranoid, completely convinced he's going to murder me. Also, he lived on a boat. I went on a 4-hour date with a woman who rides horses for a living. The entire 4 hours she told me everything I could possibly want to know about horses and then some. I learned so much about horses that I forgot most the shit she told me. Edit, holy fuck. The puns have me dying, lol. Went on a Tinder date who made it clear she had mental health issues and PTSD from past trauma. We decided to meet for bubble tea. I get a seat and wait. She walks in with a large stuffed shark. Cool. Plushes are fine. They can be a good therapeutic tool. She gets her beverage. We sit down to drink. Not even a hello was exchanged, and we dive right into how she was assaulted and raped. I was in the healthcare field. I can listen. The thing is though, she was talking very loudly, uncomfortable levels of loudness about tough issues. I could not redirect her or change the topic. Nothing. She wasn't having any of that. So I panicked and said, want to go to your car and make out. Her eyes light up and she loosens the grip on her stuffed shark. Okay. We get back to her car. We kiss, very awkward. It was mostly teeth, and the shark was kind of between us. I mentioned how I'm kink friendly to her previously. She hit me with a weird question and this awkward teethy kissing. Can we do some rape play? I kind of panicked again. You sure? I mean maybe? We can walk to a park. I stammered. We get out of the car. We walk towards a park. The entire time she is talking about her trauma. All that jazz. Just awkward point we get to a fairly private space. She softly says maybe we shouldn't do this. Yeah. Sounds good to me. I ended up jerking off while she watched me. I took an Uber home. I texted her that I had a good time. It's hard to say I was catfished, cause the actual girl was there. But so was her boyfriend and her friend she thought I would be a better match with. What made it more odd is she had sent nudes. Full face nudes, not photoshopped face swapped. I could see the chest tat on her in person, no mistaking that. Was going to go to a bar with a girl I met on Tinder. She showed up 15 minutes late, which wasn't that big of a deal. Got out of her car, crossed the street, and then awkwardly shook my hand. Told me she forgot her ID at home. Apologized, and then left. Dated a man who corrected my Polish. Because his grandmother was Polish, and she told him how to pronounce some words. Mind you, I was brought up in Poland. Went to school and college there. Read a zillion books. Saw a zillion Polish movies etc. But this guy was very condescending about my pronunciation of the few words he learned from his grandma. This chick suggested we go to this experimental art exhibit thing. It had a giant ball pit for adults, among other things. Pretty interesting to have two 30-somethings in a ball pit for a date. Fun time. My first dating app date starts off pretty good. We barely put in our dinner order and her phone starts blowing up. Her ex was drunk and causing a scene outside her app. Her ex kept calling. Then her roommate started, and then the landlord calls threatening to call the police. We get our food to go, and I take her back to her app. Long story short, both her and her ex are crying messes. She goes inside, leaves me outside with crying drunk ex who starts telling me all about how he messed their relationship. Dude is way too drunk to drive. I end up driving him to his app. Uber back to my car. Realize my date took all the food with her. The joys of dating. I went on a date with a girl who stood me up to the movies. I watched the movie, It Too, then went to dinner at Mary Callender's by myself. There I met people from a robotics club from my college and wanted to participate. My first meeting is this Friday. Best stood up. Help me, I'm lonely. Outing/date so far. 10/10ths would do again. Hooked up with a girl. She was 28 with dentures and she gave me a gum job. So I was 18, in the Air Force, and living in the dorms. My roommate set me up with his girlfriend's cousin, and the four of us went to a movie. She brought a stuffed animal, not a tiny little thing some young women clipped to their keychain. It was a gigantic blue rabbit at least as big as a toddler. She said she brought it because she sometimes gets scared in movies. We were seeing a comedy. After the movie, we grabbed some ice cream and drove the cousins home. My date invited me to kiss her at the door, but told me I should also kiss Pebbles, so he wouldn't be jealous. Edit. Of course I kissed Pebbles. My date was actually out of my league hot, but crazy. I was on a date with a MTF transgender woman who was shocked and turned off by the fact that I'm a bisexual man. Told a girl I was into granular environmental shit. She replied me too. We hit it off quickly. Anyway. She kept talking up how incredible her job was, and that she taught a bunch of kids about environmental issues, and how amazing this job was. Basically begging me to come check it out. So we picked a day and I took the day off from work. It had been a while since we saw each other, so she decided it would be fun to send me real kinky texts about fun places we could sneak off to around her work as it was her fantasy. I was down, and I was getting in the mood myself. I drive to her work, only to find out she works at a trash burning power plant and recycling center, and on that day we'll be giving a tour to a bunch of preschoolers. Throughout the date, basically every chance she could, she would try to get me turned on when no one was looking. There were about 20 kids and teachers right there. Meanwhile we are walking through piles of rotten trash. or looking at machinery that could kill you in an instant if you stepped over a boundary line, or staring into a white hot furnace to see the burning trash. Therefore you walked around the dirtier you felt, which in a way was not surprising. I still had the worst blue balls in my life, which in itself was questionable. Anyway, the tour ended. She took me in her office, and well, let's just say it took 3 showers and a wave to a priest to feel clean after that. I went on a date with a guy. He invited me over to his apartment. Little did I know that it was a basement apartment. So the air was awful, it was under reconstruction, and no daylight. I felt weird. So I sent my location to few of my friends just in case, if he wanted to kill me. It went well. He didn't kill me. I sucked his dick and left. I matched with a Chinese exchange student on Tinder. She asked me to meet her at her apartment. Then we'd go link up with some of her friends at the waterfront. We are texting as I'm on the way over. And she didn't realize this was a date. Nonetheless, she asks me to pick up dinner for both of us on the way over. I get to her apartment, and before I can even take my jacket off, she says, "So, do you have anything to say to me?" Presumably because I'd spent 15 seconds in silence. I offer her the food she asked for. She said she wasn't hungry. I try to strike up a conversation, but she dead ends every topic I bring up. She starts texting and making phone calls. She was speaking Mandarin, presumably, but I was able to make it the name of the place we were supposed to meet her friends. She said something about how plans might change because her friend needs help. Throughout all this, I just sat by myself, eating my sandwich in silence. When I was finished, I asked if she just wanted me to leave. She said yes, then gave me $20 for dinner. The one where I asked a girl out and she said yes, and then brought her friend. And halfway through the date it dawned on me that she was trying to get me to like her friend. Ugh, I've had a few bad ones, but the weirdest/worst happened a few years back. Met this girl online, started talking, arranged the date. It was around Halloween, so all of her pictures had her in costumes and wigs at what I'm assuming were Halloween parties. I was excited to get to see what she really looked like. Day of the date she happened to be picking up her new car and asked if she could pick me up. Weird, but no biggie. So she picks me up and says, "Mind if we grab coffee and drive around for an hour so I can get used to my car?" Weird again, but whatever. So now we are driving around for a good 2 hours and the conversation is wearing thin. I knew she had work that day, we hadn't really talked about it yet, if you can believe it, and I said something like, "So, how's work been lately for you?" And she said, "It's slow this time of year. Sometimes I want to pull my hair out." Like a fucking idiot I decide to respond with, "Well, don't do that. Nothing attractive about a bald girl," to which she replies, "This is probably a good time to tell you I have cancer. I'm actually wearing a wig right now." And suddenly it all clicked. The pictures with all the wigs made sense. I didn't know what to do. You can't put your foot any further down your throat than I did. I knew I had to say something. So I said, "I feel really embarrassed about what I just said. Maybe I should just go," keeping in mind I'm in her car and have nowhere to go, to which she pulled the car over and had me get out. Literally 30 minutes from my house. I had to call my mom to come and get me. I was 32 years old at the time. So that sucked. It wasn't as bad as the girl who got diarrhea on our first date. Sorry, actually we had dated 6 months. And yet in other ways it was worse. Ugh, I've had a few bad ones. But the weirdest/worst happened a few years back. Met this girl online, started talking, arranged the date. It was around Halloween, so all of her pictures had her in costumes and wigs at what I'm assuming were Halloween parties. I was excited to get to see what she really looked like. Day of the date she happened to be picking up her new car and asked if she could pick me up. Weird, but no biggie. So she picks me up and says, "Mind if we grab coffee and drive around for an hour so I can get used to my car?" Weird again, but whatever. So now we are driving around for a good 2 hours and the conversation is wearing thin. I knew she had work that day, we hadn't really talked about it yet, if you can believe it, and I said something like, "So, how's work been lately for you?" And she said, "It's slow this time of year. Sometimes I want to pull my hair out. Like a fucking idiot I decide to respond with, well, don't do that. Nothing attractive about a bald girl, to which she replies, this is probably a good time to tell you I have cancer. I'm actually wearing a wig right now. And suddenly it all clicked. The pictures with all the wigs made sense. I didn't know what to do. You can't put your foot any further down your throat than I did. I knew I had to say something. So I said, I feel really embarrassed about what I just said. Maybe I should just go, keeping in mind I'm in her car and have nowhere to go. To which she pulled the car over and had me get out. Literally 30 minutes from my house. I had to call my mom to come and get me. I was 32 years old at the time. So that sucked. It wasn't as bad as the girl who got diarrhea on our first date. Sorry. Actually, we had dated 6 months. And yet in other ways it was worse. I basically did the same. I was floored to learn this wasn't her first time doing this. So then I go inside to find my girl. She made it as far as the upstairs bathroom, where I found her naked, laying on her side, throwing up, shitting, and a tampon string hanging from her amongst all of it. I learned a great deal about how capable a woman's bowels truly are on that evening. Finally, once she was cleaned up and ready for bed, like 2 hours later, I left, got into my car, and realized me passenger seat was still soaked with piss and the car was rank. So I guess you could say it was a pretty good night.